Hello, boys and girls. This is Miss Cullivan, and this is math lesson number 16. Today we are going to learn how to tell time. There are two important vocabulary words that you need to know before we start to look at the clock. And the first one is the hour hand. There are two hands on a clock, sometimes three hands on a clock, but we're going to pay attention to just two today. The hour hand is the short one, and it points to the hour on the clock for the time. The long hand is called the minute hand, and that tells you how many minutes have passed. Okay, so you're going to be looking at the hour hand and the minute hand when you're telling time today. So the hour hand is the short one, and the way I remember it is that hour is a short word, and the minute hand is the long one because the word minute is a longer word. Okay, so here we have a clock in front of us. The hour hand, that's the short one, is pointing to the 1. And the long hand, that's the minute hand, is pointing straight up to the 12. Any time that the minute hand is pointing straight up to the 12, we say o'clock. So now we only have to look at the hour hand. The hour hand is pointing to the 1, so we call this 1 o'clock. Now you can write it out and spell it like that if you want, but most of the time we see 1 o'clock written like this. 1 o'clock. That's how you see it on digital clocks and on your phone and your iPad and your computer. But it's important, boys and girls, to know how to read the other kind of clock too. All right, so that's 1 o'clock. Let's try another one. This time, both hands are pointing straight up to the 12. So let's start with the hour hand. That's the short one. It's pointing to the 12. So that's the hour. And then the minute hand, the long one, is pointing straight up to the 12. So do you remember what we say? O'clock. That's right. So the time is 12 o'clock. And those are the two different ways you can write 12 o'clock. Look at this one, boys and girls. Do you know what time it is? The hour hand, that's the little one, is pointing to the 7. And the minute hand, that's the long one, is pointing straight up to the 12. What time is it? 7 o'clock. Do you remember the other way to write 7 o'clock? Very good. Those two little dots, boys and girls, between the 7 and the 0 is called a colon, those two little dots. What time is it now, boys and girls? Oh, this one's a little tricky, Miss Cullivan, because there's two black hands on the clock and then there's a red hand on the clock. I'm going to tell you that that red hand is called the seconds. It's the seconds hand. We have an hour hand, a minute hand, and that one is for the seconds. We're going to pretend like that one's not there, boys and girls. Just ignore that one and just look at the hour hand and the minute hand. The hour hand is the short one and it's pointing to the 3. And the minute hand is the long one pointing to the 12. So what time is it? 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. Very nice. Let's do another one. What time is it now, boys and girls? Well, I see the hour hand is pointing to the 5. That's the short one. And the minute hand is pointing to the 12. Boy, the hands on this clock almost look like they're the same length. This is tricky. But I can see that the long hand is almost touching the 12 and the other one's a little bit shorter. So I think the time is 5 o'clock. That's right, 5 o'clock. What time is it now, boys and girls? The hour hand is pointing to the 2, and the minute hand is pointing straight up to the 12. So it is 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock. I I want you to remember how to write it both ways for me, boys and girls. That's important. When you're practicing, write it both ways for me. Here's the next one. Do you know what time it is? Well, you can see these hands are close to being the same length too, but the one that's pointing to the 8 is a little bit shorter. So that's the hour hand, 8 o'clock. Did you get that one right? I hope you did. Here's the next one. What time is it now, boys and girls? The hour hand is pointing to the 10, and the minute hand is pointing to the 12. So it is 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. Here's your next one, boys and girls. Do you know what time it is now? Look at that short hand first. The little hand's pointing to the 9, and the other one straight up, 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. Very good. Here's your next one, boys and girls. There's that extra hand, the skinny one. Do you see it? Pretend that's kind of pointing between the 3 and the 4. Just pretend you don't see that one. Just look at the big ones. What time is it, boys and girls? The little hand's pointing to the 6. That's the hour. And the long hand is to the 12. That's the minute. 6 o'clock. Did you get that one right? I hope you did. Here's your next one. What time is it now? Little hand's pointing to the 4 and the big hand's to the 12. It's 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. Okay, I'm going to do some ready, set, go. I'll show you the clock. I'm not going to give you any help, but you tell me the time and then I'll give you the answer. Ready, set, go. What time is that, boys and girls? It's 3 o'clock. Did you get it right? Here's the next one. What time is it? It's 10 o'clock. What time is it? It's 7 o'clock. How'd you do? Pretty good? Is it getting easier? I hope so. Here comes the next one. Ready? What time is that? 8 o'clock. Here's the next one. Go. 12 o'clock. And our last one. Ready? Go. 5 o'clock. Very good. All right, for your lesson summarizer, I want you to think for a minute, boys and girls. What's the difference between the hour hand and the minute hand? If you had to explain that to your mom or dad or your brother or sister, what's the difference between the hour hand and the minute hand? Which one's short? The hour hand is the short one, and the minute hand is the long one. Very good. For your assignment today, boys and girls, I would like you to draw and label a clock and make the hands on the clock show 4 o'clock. So draw the clock, put all the numbers, and then make it say 4 o'clock and label the hour hand and the minute hand. Thanks for listening, boys and girls. Bye.